Good afternoon or good morning, wherever it is you're at. I'm Martin Saenz, host of Note Investing Made Easier, along with my partner in crime, Shawn Muneio. Shawn, how you doing today?
Doing great, Martin. I'm doing great. Down here in Florida, grandma's house. Things are good.
Live from Grandma's house.
That's the great thing about this business, right? Wherever you are.
Yes, and you will be a grandpa one day.
I will be, and somebody will make fun of my house too.
No doubt. Well, today we have a very interesting topic. We're going to talk about exit strategies within the note space. And, one thing that always kind of intrigues me with the note business is you never quite know which way a note's going to go until you get knee deep into the workout. So it's best to prepare for all given scenarios at the onset.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we buy notes, we're like, analyzing them to death. Like, if it went this way, it's going to do this. If it went this way, it's going to do this. And we just analyze things to death. And the reality is, borrower gets to pick the exit ramp they take. We don't, but we like to hypothesize and think we know where they're going when we don't.
Yeah. I mean, one of the first popular exits is through the property, right? So,
Yeah.
and we'll talk about some of the other exits through the note itself, as well as through the bar. However, as it relates of exiting through the property, what comes to mind is something, one of the notes we're working with right now, someone that, we bought the note last fall, and we found out in February that they filed BK, and I think it's out of Cleveland, Ohio, and so we got a nice down payment to get it caught up through the BK plan. They started making monthly payments, and the bar is now deceased as of May or June. So whereas before we were exiting through the bar, now we're over here scrambling, trying to figure out how to get a deed in lieu from a borrower that's deceased on a 300K property.
Yeah.
And it's kind of wild because the ex-wife who's out of the house, she wants to sign it. She'll sign a deed in lieu with us. The deceased borrower's father wants to do whatever to kind of get this squared away. And now we're going to have to figure out probate and how that factors into the equation in terms of the exit through the property, because there is a lot of equity coverage on this note.
Yeah, I mean, we thought it was a great RPL, right? We went into BK, filed a proof of claim, boom, boom, borrower starts paying again. We were on the RPL train headed out of town, and all of a sudden a detour.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing. Like, we got to be on our toes as owners of these assets. Like, we got to be on our toes, because we think after the exit happened, we're like, oh, well, it's heading that way and it's going that way and it's going to be good. And then all of a sudden, boom, something changes. And now we're likely going to get the property back, have to, clean it out and then wholesale it. But if you're not paying attention, we would have missed it. And maybe the borrower would have gave the property to the first instead of the second. And so, if we weren't on top of it, the first lien could be driving in the driver's seat, but now we're going to be in the driver's seat.
Once we figure out probate.
Yeah, once we figure out probate there. But yeah, that's a good example.
So you have, obviously you get a note, and there's two facets to it. You have a promissory note, promise to repay, between the borrower and the lender, giving a certain set of terms, as well as you have a mortgage or some type of security instrument that ties that promise to the property. in terms of a lien. So, in cases where we're purchasing loans that are distressed, whereby the borrower has not made a payment in over 90 days, in certain cases, you're going to get the property back. The borrower decides, hey, it's just not worth it. I'm going to move back in with mom's, something like that. So, tell me about what your thoughts are when you have to exit through the property. What's going through your mind?
Well, I mean, understanding what position you're in first, right, decides as to what strategy you're taking. And most of the time we're in second position. So if we have to take the property back, we're always wondering, well, what's the senior going to do? Are they going to deal with us, or are they going to try and take it out from underneath us? And so we're kind of watching our back all the time to see if the first is coming up from behind us and try and snatch it away from us. So keeping an eye as to what's going on there is critical. And then we're trying to make sure that, as we get the borrower out, that they're not going to destroy the place. And so, what strategies are we going to deploy to keep the house from getting destroyed, so that any equity that we do have, doesn't get eroded by the time we have to sell the property. And so you're always watching your back if you're in second position to see what the first is doing, and then you're trying to keep the property preserved so that we can get top dollar for it. And then, finding out who can unload it for us the quickest. Is the realtor that we found locally really giving us a good, selling price on the asset, or are they just, trying to flip it really fast? So all of those things have to be taken into account. It's a three-dimensional chess match that you're in.
Yeah, because you're, throw in the bar, throw in you working with the bar. We've had to take a property back in California. Recently, a few weeks ago, there's probably a few $100K in equity. It's a junior lien. They owe us about 120. And, right now we're talking to the bar. She's moving out of the house. She's going to give us cash for keys for $2,000. So she's going to leave it broom ready. And however, if you're not doing everything possible to have healthy dialogue with the bar, then that's going to go and complicate things for you as a note investor. And but in this case, I think doing everything possible to talk to the bar, to explain options, to see what's on their mind. Are they kind of halfway out the house, or are they want to stay put? So then that way you can move it from a property exit into a bar exit, which is much better for everyone involved. But taking the property is part of the whole game.
Yeah, and then right now we got this extra bonus complexity of the pandemic going on, which creates some additional hurdles for us that we normally wouldn't have, which also has to be taken into account. But
the universal lubricant is still alive and well.
Yeah,
that's money. So paying someone, and that's really it. Is if you have to exit through the property, you have to take the most humane approach possible. COVID or no COVID, it's these are people, these are families, these are people's livelihoods. They've lived in the house many years, and we try to have a practice where we've done everything possible to keep them in their homes. But at some point, they may not want to be in their home anymore. They may say, like, it's more advantageous to move out and kind of start something new for themselves. And in that case, you have to really work with them to give them time to exit out.
Yeah, and you'll know right away whether this person is gonna, stay kicking and screaming, or if they're willing to kind of work with you and start over. Per se, they might see it as a fresh start for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of obviously, I guess before we kind of wrap up on the property exit, some of the popular exits through the property is obviously you take the note through foreclosure, and you take the legal process, and the property goes to sale, or and you get the property back that way, and you reposition. So what are some options to reposition that property for profit once you take it back after post auction?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what your business model is, right? Some folks like to, they've got some rehabbing experience, and so it's a perfect opportunity to rehab a property, put some money into it, fresh paint on the walls, and attempt to put it back on the market and get top dollar for it, right? So that's a strategy that a lot of folks that are in our space kind of came from the rehabbing world, and so it's like a perfect fit. The challenge is always, well, that property is in California and I'm in Denver or wherever, Virginia or whatever, and now I got to figure out my team in a place that I don't know. But then the other option would be just to wholesale it, right? Sell it as is and just try to get it off the books as soon as possible. I mean, what do you think?
I think there's I want to do as little as possible to the property to turn it over, because we're not in the property business. We're not in the real estate business. We're in the mortgage note business, and it's the other side of the coin. So if I have to cut the lawn, clean it out, change the locks, I'll consider that. Maybe winterize if it's somewhere that needs winterization. Then that's about the extent that I want to go in with this property. Now, some may say you're leaving money on the table, but I'm not looking to deal with a property manager that's going to clean me out, halfway around the country. It's just not worth it for me when I have hundreds of notes behind me that that are being worked out where I'm squeezing juice that way.
Yeah, another interesting one that I've heard people talk about, I've never done it myself, but they see it as an opportunity. Like, that's how they're picking up rental property, right? So they're like, oh, great, we're bringing that piece of property back into the fold, and now it's a rental property, and we're gonna clean it out and pay off the first if there's a first, and keep that in the portfolio as a rental property, and that's another strategy, right? Through the property, it's now an asset on the books that's a tenant in.
So that makes me think. We passed on a pool just like a month or two ago, and the notes. The pool was comprised of notes that had massive equity coverage, low interest rates. And it was kind of the perfect storm for buying a note pool whereby you have to exit through the property, but you would do very well if you exited through the property. And you and I had conversations, yeah. And I don't know if you remember, it's just like, I'm like, there's no way I want to buy a pool whereby my exit strategy, I'm forcing my hand to go and displace a family. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's not part of the core values, right? But if you're going to buy those assets and to get your returns, like, that is the only option. And so I'm glad we decided to pass on that. It would have changed the culture of the company. It'd be against the values that we're trying to show. And I agree with you. I think what we always say is, we buy distressed mortgage notes. We keep borrowers in their home. Like, that's what we say we do. And when you buy a pool that's not an option anymore, it changes a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on kind of from the exit through the property, you also have exit through the note. And that is essentially, you're buying the note at X dollars and reselling it in a flipping fashion at Y dollars. Now, to that extent where you're flipping the note, just like you'd be flipping a property as a real estate flipper, that used to be more prevalent, years past when note pricing was a lot lower. What's your thought on note flipping in today's market?
It's definitely harder. It's definitely harder for sure. And the only way that we've been successful in the past at doing that is really buying larger pools where we can get the pricing down, focusing on the loans that we want, and then saying, well, there's nothing wrong with these other loans. We just want to sell some of them to recapitalize or what have you. And so the strategy is, well, we'll work on this piece of the pool because it's in the states we like. It's the property values that we like, and then over here, these are good loans, but just might not fit in the buy box. But we got it, and we got it at a good price. So let's just make a few points on it, not much, and flip it, so that we could stay focused on what we do best, and that's modify loans.
So when you move upstream, you're buying mixed bag opportunities. You're gonna pick up notes outside your sandbox, or put another way, outside your buying parameters. And so the best thing to do when you do that is to go and sell those notes. Now, I would also encourage those out there. I did talk to someone I respect greatly about a few weeks ago, and him and I were talking. It's someone that I mentored about a year ago, and he was having trouble with a few notes because they're outside like his parameter, what he really cares for. He picked them up early on in his note investing career, and they're just giving him a lot of headache right now. So when something takes up mental energy, it takes up real estate in your head, and it's preventing you from advancing forward in all the other ways you need to be advancing, then the best thing to do is just to sell that. Not like, not as like a profitable, experience. You may just get back the money that you paid for that note, but just to kind of clear up your mind, and so you can, focus on what you're good at or what your parameters are. Yeah,
I agree. It's always like, what are you waking up every day thinking about, right? Are you thinking about the notes that are on the shelf, or are you thinking about the notes that you're working on? And I'm with you. Like, I want to wake up every day, focus on the notes that we're focused on 100%. Those are the ones that are going to get worked out. And so therefore, let's clean off the notes that are on the shelf so that we can do that.
So we destroyed our shelf. By the way, for those of you who don't, we killed our we had an on hold folder with a bunch of notes we were shelving.
Filing cabinet, big filing cabinet, right?
We killed it. So every single note that resides in our casa is either being worked actively or being sold actively. There is no on hold. There's no on hold anything. Yeah. Nothing's on there. Everything is moving at a hyper speed in our office. Right. So if it's not moving, it's like water, right? The mosquitoes start getting there, mildew or whatever the heck's growing on top, and moss and all that. That water needs to be white water.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of the one changing experience. It really transformed our office, is just to say, hey, look, and the asset managers love it, right? Because they're getting paid when they move files. So right. When it's on hold, I mean, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for like to hit the lottery where someone needs to pay you off because they're getting out of their property or what? No, just offload and go.
One day a long time ago, it made sense to put it in an on-hold bucket, and that's gone. We grew up from that, right?
Yeah. So let's move on to loan modifications. That is the golden goose for us. It's why we both entered the space. It's
Yeah.
to help homeowners stay in their homes while making profit for ourselves, and where it's a win-win situation for all involved. And we consider that, at the heart of everything we do. The bar had a situation at some point in their life, whether it was due to relationships or health or employment. They stopped paying, and now they're coming back to the table, 3, 4, 5 years later, and they want to work out terms. Well, at that point, we want to help them get back on their feet with a payment plan that they can afford.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about loan modifications and why they're kind of important to the company.
Yeah, loan modifications are critical to the operation, the profitability of the organization, right? The goal has always been to buy at a wholesale level, work the notes ourselves, and turn it into a cash flow stream that we may keep forever, right? And so if that's our end game, buy at a wholesale level and keep the note until the last day, 30 years maybe, in order to build up that cash, because that's a long-term strategy. We're thinking long-term. To do that, to get that ball rolling, we got to get that loan modded as soon as possible, because we put out a lot of capital to buy it. We maybe put out some more capital for legal, and then we mod it. We're just getting, a few payments up front, and then a monthly a payment every month. And so the ROI on that, it takes a little while for that to pan out for us, but it's a long-term strategy, and over the course of those 30 years we'll crush it. But getting that ball rolling, getting that first payment in, like, that's the race, right? That's what we're running towards. And so mods are critical. Everybody in the entire organization wakes up every day focused on, am I getting a loan mod today? Am I getting a loan mod this week? How many am I getting this month? And so for us, like, that's a critical piece of the organization.
Yeah. So get rich slow, build well slow. I think that goes back to how you capitalize your note business,
Yeah.
right? So if you're not communicating well with your passive investors you're working with, or just your strategic partners, then you may feel pressured to make moves to capital gain type moves where you're pushing for a deed in lieu, even though that the borrower can make some monthly payments. And you may be kind of compromising what the principles for your company. But if you're positioned where you're having good relationships with your capital partners, with your strategic partners, and they know that this is a long-term play, and they're with you eye to eye, then that's where it can really be special for you, because you're covering your cost of capital while you're growing your business. So there's so much alignment that needs to happen with all the people that are involved in your note business for yourself to kind of advance forward.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody has to be on board with your strategy. And some people get in the note business and they just want to flip notes. We want to keep those streams forever. And so that's why everybody in the organization is focused on reaching our borrowers and working out payments that they can afford, which is a critical piece, because how am I going to take this loan to the end of the payment and keep it if I've given a borrower a payment they can't afford? That's just a temporary strategy that's just going to fail in the end, and we're going to go back to square one. So giving borrowers payments they can afford is critical for the life of that loan. We don't want them back in the same spot they're in now. And so we got to spend a lot of time making sure that what we're signing up for and what borrowers signing up for is for the long term.
Yeah, and it goes back to relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
Relationships. So the fact that we're long-term players, we want to go and provide someone a loan modification, a 30-year term, let's say, or 20-year term, and we want to be there in 20, 30 years to still receive payments, barring that they sell the house or what have you. But we want to be there as long as they're in the property. And so we created the Bequest, which is Bequest Funds, which is an income fund to go and place those performing assets that meet certain criteria into the fund. So that's kind of our legacy play, but it's also a commitment to not just modifying a loan and keeping the homeowner in their home, but to actually be their partner through the years. If something does happen, they can call us and we'll be there and we'll be able to work with them, or so we are, even though we use a licensed servicer, we still very much want to foster that relationship with the borrowers over the course of time.
Yeah, and we have really strict underwriting standards in the fund, right? So we're really focused on investment to value ratios, and from an entire portfolio perspective, we like to stick at about 65% ITV, and we need that loan to be cured, for a period of time, and so the underwriting requirements for the fund a little more stricter, just because we're raising capital for the fund, right? But it's a win-win for everybody. The loans that go into the fund, our asset managers have a relationship with it, and with the borrower specifically. And if for whatever reason they called us and they had an issue, they know us and they know that we'll work with them, because the end goal is to keep them paying. And so our best loans that we modify go into the fund, and we share the wealth, right? We share the wealth with our investors and pay them their dividend on a monthly basis, which is very different than a lot of other funds. This is strictly a performing fund, whereby our qualified investors get current income paid monthly.
So thank you. So what I would just encourage folks is, if you are getting into the note business or you're active in the note business, really make the exit strategy part of your core values. So if your mantra is, keep borrowers in their homes, make it where you're trying to attract those types of notes where you have, the greater chance of loan modding them, or if you're like what Shawn mentioned, where you're looking to, flip properties, rehab properties, but doing it through note investing. So you want to buy a note where the property is vacant. There's some note investors that just buy vacant properties because they know they can get deed and lose pretty fast, and then they can go rehab the property, make it a turnkey rental, or sell it with seller financing or something like that. So just put some thought into what your exit strategies are, what your short-term play is, what your long-term play is, what your partner's play is, what's in their head. So that way you have some alignment that way, and I think you'll have a better you'll have better advancement as a result of that. So I want to thank everyone. Shawn, any closing statement?
No. This is a great topic, a great discussion. Obviously, a discussion that we're really passionate about. So it was a great conversation here.
Terrific. Well, thanks everyone for joining us, and we will check you out next week, because we are committed to doing this on a weekly basis.
Sounds good. Thanks, Martin.
All right. See you guys.
Yeah.